Hey guys, tonight we're stepping barefoot onto the damp soil of a medieval village where your bed is a pile of straw, your breakfast is whatever didn't rot overnight, and your alarm clock is the sun unless a rooster beats it to the punch. You'll smell manure before you open your eyes, and by the time you stand up, your knees will already ache from another day of backbreaking work. This is not the glamorous world of knights and castles. This is the daily muddy grind of peasant life, and you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where in the world you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're awake now, lying on a lumpy sack filled with straw that pokes your back with each breath. There's no mattress, no blanket, just a few burlap scraps, and maybe if you're lucky, a fur from a small animal. A draft slices through the crooked wooden shutters. Rain drips in somewhere above your head. The cottage roof is thatched, and mice scurry above, nesting in the reeds. Beside you, your siblings snore, 5 or 6 of them, packed like firewood, along the same low platform, their warmth the only real comfort. You blink. It's still gray outside, but dawn is coming. The air smells of smoke, damp wool, and the faint acidic tang of chamber pots that someone forgot to empty. You stand slowly, feet numb from the cold. The dirt floor is uneven, compacted by years of trampling. A low fire sputters in the hearth. It's never fully extinguished, just buried overnight to keep the embers alive. Your mother is already up, crouched over the hearth, blowing gently on the coals with a tube of reed. Sparks flitter. She glances at you, then back at the pot of porridge barley water, maybe a little onion or dried herb if anything was left over. There's no meat, not for breakfast, not unless someone's been poaching, an act punishable by death if you're caught on the Lord's land. You eat quickly, wooden spoon in one hand, cradling the bowl in the other. The porridge is bland but hot, which is all that matters. Your teeth crunch something grit, maybe from the grinding stone. It's always there. You've gotten used to it. Your gums bleed often. Everyone's do. Outside, a fog clings low to the earth. You tug on your tunic, coarse wool, hand-spun, dyed with whatever could be scrounged from roots and bark. It itches like mad, but you've worn it every day for the past year. Boots, if you have them, are cracked leather with thin soles. More likely you step outside barefoot, squelching through the wet ground, as a rooster struts past like royalty. Your family holds a small strip of land, open field style. You don't own it. It belongs to the Lord, just like your house, your tools, and your life. You're allowed to work it in exchange for a share of your harvest and your service. Some weeks, that means giving your crops. Other weeks, it means walking 2 miles to the manor to dig ditches, shear sheep, or haul stones. Today, though, you're weeding, again. You walk the same rut-carved path to your plot. It's about 1/2 an acre long, narrow, and bordered by your neighbor's fields. No fences, just muddy markers and the hope that no one encroaches. The soil is heavy, clay-like. You kneel and begin pulling weeds. Your hand are rough knuckles, calloused nails, black with dirt that never really comes out. Sometimes the weeds fight back with thorns. Sometimes the stinging nettles leave your skin inflamed for days. You stop noticing. Hours pass. The sun lifts weakly above the trees. You barely look up. You've been taught since childhood that the land matters more than the sky. At midday, you trudge home. A crust of rye bread and some boiled cabbage awaits. Maybe a chunk of hard cheese if your family didn't trade it away last week. Your teeth hurt when you chew, but you do it anyway. Hunger is the stronger force. You might rest a moment, but not for long. There's more to do: collect firewood, repair the thatch, turn the compost heap, gather wild herbs for your mother. She knows the plants that ease belly aches, the ones that stop bleeding. Her knowledge keeps you alive more than the village priest does. Your father mends tools, his back-hunched fingers crooked from years of repetitive motion. He doesn't talk much. None of the adults do. They've long since stopped dreaming. You can see it in their eyes, the fatigue, the dull flicker of resignation. You wonder sometimes if you'll become like that, or if something will change. By late afternoon, a drizzle sets in. You're soaked, but there's no such thing as stopping for weather. Rain is part of life, like blisters, like fleas, like hunger. You've learned to live with all of them. Evening returns quietly. Smoke rises from a dozen chimneys. The village is a loose cluster of huts, maybe 40 in all. A church stands at one end, wooden and leaning. Beside it, a graveyard, shallow plots, wooden crosses. You know the names of many buried there. Some died of fever. Others simply stopped waking up. The village midwife said their hearts gave out. That happens when food is scarce. Inside again, your family gathers. Your siblings bicker over who gets the dry spot near the fire. Your mother hums softly as she picks lice from the youngest's hair. Your father sharpens a sickle. Someone coughs a deep, chesty sound that makes everyone go quiet for a second. You eat another helping of porridge. It tastes like nothing but fills the void. Your body aches. You stretch out on the straw bed. Your toes are numb again. The fire glows softly, casting shadows on the walls. The mice resume their quiet rustling overhead. Your eyes close, heavy with exhaustion, ears ringing with the silence of a life without machines, without clocks, without comfort. But before sleep fully takes you, there's the thought always the same. Tomorrow will be exactly like today, and so will the next day, and the next. Unless, of course, something worse happens first. The days blend together, each one smoothed by the same calluses, the same damp clothes, the same gray sky pressing down. But not every moment is labor. Some are governed by rituals, customs older than anyone you know. And today, one of those rituals arrives. It's church day. That doesn't mean rest, not entirely, but it's a break in the rhythm, a rare variation in the endless loop of toil. You wake just after dawn. No rooster this time. Your mother shakes your shoulder, whispering your name before slipping out the door to fetch water from the village well. The dew is thick outside your breath, visible. You shiver as you dress, slipping on the same tunic you wore all week and the week before. It smells like smoke and sweat and wool. You barely notice anymore. The whole family gathers near the hearth. No one speaks much. There's an unspoken tension. Church isn't just prayer, it's presence. The Lord will be there, likely seated near the altar, his face washed, his boots clean, a sword gleaming at his hip. You'll sit on the cold stone floor, packed shoulder to shoulder with the others, listening to Latin words you don't understand. But not going is unthinkable. It's not just about God, it's about being seen, being part of the village, being obedient. Your father washes his hands in a chipped wooden basin. Your mother combs her hair with a bone comb that belonged to her own mother. The children are scolded into silence. You begin the walk to church, careful not to slip on the slick mud path. The church bell tolls once. Its sound is raw, almost mournful. Somewhere deep inside, it stirs something like reverence. The church is dark when you enter, lit only by the thick candles flickering near the altar. The air smells of wax and old wood and damp wool cloaks. You sit near the back with the other families who work the shallow fields. The priest's voice echoes as he begins the Mass. He doesn't look at you, his eyes are locked on the pulpit, on the missal. He recites words that no one understands, but all accept. You cross yourself when others do. You bow when they bow. It's not about belief, it's about belonging. After the service, there's a brief hush, then the crowd spills into the churchyard. The men gather to speak about the land, the weather, the next plowing rotation. Your father says little, but he listens, nods his jaw, working a bit of straw. The women discuss childbirth, healing herbs, the pain in someone's leg that won't go away. You hover near a tree, trying not to draw attention, but watching everything. Then suddenly, the Lord appears. He rides a tall horse flanked by men in partial armor. His cloak is deep blue, edged with silver thread. The villagers bow low. You do too. Your knees sink into the wet ground. You keep your eyes on the mud, heart pounding. He speaks briefly to the priest, then to the reeve, the man chosen from among the peasants, to oversee local labor and collect dues. You try to memorize the look on the Lord's face. Not cruel, not kind, indifferent, like someone inspecting a tool. The moment passes. The Lord rides off, hooves clattering on the stony road, and you breathe again. Church is over. But the real message has been delivered. He is watching. Even from his stone manor, even from behind high walls, he sees what you do. And that knowledge shapes every step you take. The rest of the day is freer. You're allowed to walk beyond the fields into the woods that edge the village. These woods are both feared and needed. You've heard stories of wolves, of bandits, of strange things seen through the trees at dusk. But you've also seen your mother gather mushrooms here. Your father cut small branches for tool handles. Your older brother trap rabbits. You step into the shade, the air cooler under the canopy. Your feet crush fallen leaves. You spot a patch of nettles and step wide. You're looking for firewood, anything dry enough to catch quickly. The branches here are twisted, some mossy, some brittle. You gather an armful and tie it with a leather strip. On the way back, you stop near a hollow log. Something moves. A rabbit. You lean in. Two eyes blink at you from the shadows. It's a badger. You freeze. It growls a low warning sound, and you slowly back away, heart hammering. You've heard of boys losing fingers to badger bites. You tell no one when you get home. Just add it to the list of things you've survived. Later that evening, your father brings out the carving knife. It's not for food. It's for making handles, mending tools, shaping wooden pegs. He lets you watch. Sometimes he even lets you try. The blade is sharp, the motion slow and precise. The wood curls off in thin ribbons. He tells you for the first time in weeks that you'll need your own knife soon. It's a strange moment, part compliment, part warning. A reminder that you're growing older, closer to the age where you'll be expected to work full days, pay dues, maybe even marry. Marry. You think of a girl down the lane, her eyes always fixed on the ground, her face framed by a scarf that hides more than it reveals. She's spoken 3 words to you in the past year. That's how it works. Matches are made by families, not by feelings. And love, if it ever comes, is a byproduct, not a prerequisite. As night falls, your mother hums a song you don't recognize. It's soft lilting, older than any name in the village registry. She sings while she combs your sister's hair, unraveling the knots with gentle fingers. The fire crackles. Shadows stretch long across the walls. A dog barks in the distance. You lie on your straw bed, staring at the roof beams. The mice are quiet tonight. Maybe they've found something better to eat. Your belly is full enough. Your hands still ache, but you've stopped caring. You listen to the sound of the fire, the rhythm of breathing, the wind creaking through the shutters. Tomorrow, you'll wake again before sunrise. Tomorrow, you'll walk the same paths, tend the same soil, pull the same weeds. But for now, there's stillness, a moment of peace, fragile and fleeting. And in the dim warmth of the fire's glow, you let it wrap around you like a blanket made of memory and ash. The sun hasn't yet crested the hills, but the village is already stirring. You hear it before you open your eyes, feet thudding on packed earth chickens, flapping and squawking, the rhythmic creak of a pulley drawing water from the communal well. You stretch, groaning your limbs stiff from yesterday's toil. There is no room for laziness here. Every able hand must serve. You throw off the coarse wool blanket and step outside into the early mist. The dew coats your bare feet as you make your way to the byre where the family's single cow lowly moans. She's everything milk dung for fuel, sometimes labor. You check her first, gently patting her rough flank. Her warmth is almost comforting in the chill. You whisper nonsense to her as your father shows up behind you, carrying the milking pail. He doesn't speak, he never does first thing, but nods, and that's enough. Back inside, your mother stirs the pot again. Porridge. Always porridge. This time she's added a pinch of last summer's dried mint. It's faint, almost imperceptible, but you notice. You eat quickly, washing the food down with lukewarm water from the bucket by the door. There's no cup. Everyone just dips the shared ladle. Today is Flax Day. The Lord Steward announced it last week, one of the communal obligations that override your own farming needs. You hate flax. The process stinks, literally. Retting the stalks involves soaking them in water so bacteria can loosen the fibers. The smell seeps into your skin and stays there for days. Still, you go. Everyone goes. You walk toward the river with a bundle of dried stalks tied across your shoulders. Other villagers walk with you, their bundles balanced with quiet precision. The air smells of wet soil and mildew. At the riverbank, the old flax pits wait deep ditches filled with water, black with decay, rimmed with reeds and sludge. The water bubbles faintly, not from heat, but from the slow fermentation of plant and bacteria. It reeks of rot. You untie your bundle and wade into the pit, barefoot, wincing. It's cold, always cold. You place the flax stalks under the surface, using heavy stones to weigh them down. The river licks at your knees as your hands go numb. You work in silence beside others, men and women, all bent in the same slow, miserable shape. The work is mindless, but the stench is overwhelming. You gag once, then again. No one notices, or if they do, they don't care. They've all done the same. When it's done, you scrub your arms with sand and river silt, trying to remove the odor. It helps, but only slightly. Your tunic clings wetly to your chest as you wring it out and trudge back toward the village. There's no real break after. You return home only long enough to swallow a crust of rye and sip watery ale. Then it's back to your own fields, just a corner of barley that you manage alongside your father. The soil is still too moist to plow deeply, but weeds have returned, as they always do. You take your crude hoe and begin again. As you work, your eyes drift toward the road, the one leading to the manor, that elevated stone fortress looming above the valley. The road is dry today, and dust kicks up behind a distant figure. You squint. It's the bailiff. His horse trots slowly, deliberate, a bag slung over his saddle. He'll be visiting each house, collecting rents, confirming dues, checking that everyone's working as they should. Your father sees him too. Without a word, he straightens, pulls his shirt closed at the collar, wipes his face. You do the same. Appearances matter. When the bailiff arrives, he asks about the flax work, glances at your calloused hands, checks your plot. He doesn't smile, just nods and rides on. The pressure ebbs like a tide pulling back. Later in the afternoon, you're allowed a small reprieve. You wander toward the edge of the village, past the pig pens and compost heaps, toward the fallow fields where nothing grows yet. Here the hedgerows twist wild and green, buzzing with insects and scattered wildflowers. You find a stump and sit for a moment, letting your shoulders droop. A bee hovers near your elbow. You don't flinch. Bees are welcome here, crucial even. One of your neighbors keeps hives, squat wicker structures that seem to hum with life. He trades honey and beeswax, a luxury none of you could afford on your own. Sometimes he lets the children taste the comb, sticky and golden. You remember the last time, your hands trembling as you took the tiniest piece and let it melt on your tongue like sun-warmed sweetness. You pull your knees to your chest, watching the wind ripple through the tall grasses. Somewhere nearby, a lark sings. It's strange how such beauty can exist alongside such hardship. You wonder if the lark ever notices the difference. Back in the village, the smith's forge hisses and roars. You pass it on your way home, glancing inside to see the red glow of metal and the dancing sparks. The blacksmith's apprentice works the bellows, his face slick with sweat, his arms lean and strong from repetition. He nods at you. You nod back. Inside your home, your mother is repairing a sleeve with bone needles and coarse thread. She doesn't look up as you enter. Your youngest sibling sleeps on a cloth near the fire, his tiny fists curled tight. The fire is low but steady. You eat slowly tonight, each bite chewed thoroughly despite the bland taste. Your hands sting. Blisters on your palms have split open. You dip them in cool water, grit your teeth. Pain is normal here. Expected. As night falls, you look around the small room. The walls are smoke-darkened, the rafters bowed with age. Every object has a purpose. There are no decorations, no ornaments, no wasted space. Yet each item tells a story, tools sharpened by your grandfather, spoons carved by your uncle, a doll made from straw and linen scraps by your sister before she died of fever last winter. The candle sputters. The fire dims. You stretch out once more on the straw mat, now slightly warmer than it was yesterday. You listen to the soft breathing of your family, the tick of settling wood, the sigh of the night wind pushing at the shutters. And in that moment before sleep takes you, you think maybe tomorrow the flax will be ready for drying. Maybe the weeds will give you a break. Maybe the bailiff won't return for a while. Or maybe, just maybe, you'll hear that lark again. The lark doesn't sing this morning. Instead, a different sound stirs you awake, the crack of a distant shout, followed by the heavy beat of hooves over damp ground. You jolt upright, heart racing. Through the cracks in the wooden shutters, a sliver of gray daylight filters in. It's not yet time for work, but already something is happening. Your father is already outside. You throw on your tunic and follow barefoot into the cold mud of the path. A group of men has gathered near the edge of the village. The reeve, nervous and pale, is speaking quickly to the others. The words pass from mouth to mouth, passed like a warning. The mill has broken. The main water wheel is damaged. It's not just bad, it's catastrophic. Without the mill, there's no flour. Without flour, there's no bread. And bread is life. You stare down the road toward the mill. It's not close, maybe half a mile down the river. Bend nestled between two hills. You've passed it 100 times, heard its creak and splash like a heartbeat at the village's edge. Built by the Lord's men, owned by the Lord, run by one of his appointed tenants. You're not allowed to grind your own grain. That's forbidden, considered theft of the Lord's rights. Everyone knows that rule. Everyone resents it. Now with the mill broken, everyone is panicking. Not loudly. Peasants never panic in public. But you see it in their faces, the clenched jaws, the shifting eyes, the worry passed silently from parent to child. The harvest will come soon. Barley, oats, rye. But what good is grain if you can't eat it? By midday your father is summoned to the manor. So are the other able-bodied men. The Lord's steward wants the mill fixed immediately, and that means extra labor from the villagers. You know what that means for you too. Your hands will bleed more this week than last. Your muscles will burn. You'll sleep less and ache more. That's just the way of things. You eat lunch in silence. A few boiled turnips and some stale bread saved from yesterday. The crust cuts your gums, but you eat anyway. Food isn't about pleasure here. It's about survival. Then you and your father make the walk to the broken mill. The wheel lies still, one of the wooden paddles cracked and dangling. Water laps against the base like a sad drumbeat. A few of the Lord's men are already there, shouting instructions, wielding tools you've never touched. Iron wedges, thick ropes, chisels. Your job isn't to fix, it's to fetch, to haul, to lift, to obey. You do. You scramble up the banks for lengths of timber. You drag rocks. You tie knots until your fingers swell. You hold beams while they're hammered in place, flinching every time a nail screeches against wood. The work lasts until dusk, and still the wheel doesn't turn. You trudge home in silence beside your father, the soles of your feet bruised, your shoulders tight with pain. He doesn't speak. You know better than to ask if it will be finished tomorrow. That night, your mother rubs your hands with tallow and herbs. Her fingers are quick and practiced, the scent of crushed rosemary lingering in the air. She doesn't say anything either. There's nothing to say. Everyone knows what a broken mill means, and still the rhythm of life refuses to stop. The pigs must be fed. The thatch above the hearth must be patched. Tomorrow you'll rise early again, because there's no alternative. Even when the world breaks down, you keep moving. The next morning brings rain. Not a drizzle, true rain. The kind that soaks you through before you reach the path. The kind that turns fields into swamps and makes boots useless. You wrap a rough-spun woolen cloak around your shoulders and head to the mill again, slipping on the wet stones. This time the mood is sharper. One of the Lord's men slipped the day before and broke his arm. Now tempers are high. Voices are louder. The steward paces like a dog straining its leash. He wants progress. He wants results. He doesn't care about the blood on your palms or the cut on your father's temple. By midday, the wheel turns slowly, stubbornly, but it turns. Everyone cheers, but no one smiles. There's still flour to be made, bread to be baked, and rent to be paid. Back in the village, the news spreads quickly. Your mother kneads dough with stronger arms than you realized. She hums again, a low, wordless tune as she shapes the loaves. The oven is shared between families, a communal stone structure built near the center of the village. Fires must be stoked for hours. Ash scraped out. Coals raked smooth. Your sister runs back with a clay marker, the token that tells your family it's their turn to bake. You carry the dough in a wide, shallow basket, covered with a damp cloth to keep it from drying. The air smells rich with yeast and smoke. You hand over the loaves, watch them disappear into the oven's mouth, one by one. Then the waiting begins. You sit outside, watching the smoke coil up into the gray sky. Around you, others do the same, families, chatting children. playing with twigs and stones. One of the older boys scratches pictures into the dirt with a stick, a horse, a man with a sword, a windmill. You wonder if he'll be punished for wasting time. You hope not. He draws so well. When the loaves come out, they're handed back carefully. Not all are perfect. Some are burned at the edges. Others are too dense, but they're bread. Warm, fragrant, and precious. You carry them home like treasure. That evening, your mother slices each loaf carefully, rationing it out. The crusts are hard, the centers soft and steaming. You eat slowly, reverently. Even the youngest child stays quiet. This bread is more than food. It's the result of survival, of cooperation, of hard work in the face of misery. After supper, your father sits back against the wall and actually sighs. A deep, low breath that rattles out of him like a storm breaking. You realize how long it's been since you saw him rest. Outside, the rain eases. The fields still glisten, puddles caught between the furrows. You step out for a moment, the air sharp and clean after the storm. The moon peeks from behind a cloud. And in that rare, quiet moment, you breathe deeply, not just to fill your lungs, but to remind yourself that you're still here, still standing, still enduring. Even if tomorrow the wheel breaks again. The rain brought more than puddles. It brought rot. You notice it first in the smell, a sour, creeping odor wafting from the food stores. The small, thatched granary at the edge of the house has gone damp. You step inside, ducking beneath the low lintel, and your heart sinks. Barley sacks are soaked at the bottom. Mushrooms have begun to sprout between grains. The mold is pale at first, just a whisper of fuzz. But you know what that means. Your father curses when he sees it. Not loud, just a hiss between clenched teeth. He kicks one of the sacks and the damp grains scatter across the packed dirt floor. Spoiled. Useless. You'll have to sort what can be saved, spread the grain out to dry in the sun, when and if the sun returns. And still, even the salvaged parts might be poisoned. Ergot, they call it. A sickness that lives in the rye. Sometimes it's visible, dark, horn-shaped blisters clinging to the stalk. Other times it hides in the flour. People who eat it suffer seizures, hallucinations, blackened limbs. You've seen it once. A boy 2 huts over, his hands curled like claws, his mouth frothing. He screamed about flames in the sky before he died. So you kneel beside your mother and begin picking through handfuls of grain, separating mold from seed, rot from life. It's tedious, nerve-wracking. Every kernel is suspect. Every decision is a risk. You don't speak. No one does. The only sound is the soft patter of rain on the thatch above and the scrape of your fingers through the grain. The next few days pass in anxious labor. The skies remain gray. The ground stays soft and waterlogged. Animals are agitated. The cow refuses to stand for milking. The chickens huddle together under the coop feathers, puffed and eyes dull. Even your father's temper frays. He snaps at your sister for dropping a pail of water, then mutters an apology under his breath, something he's never done before. That frightens you more than the shouting. On the 4th day, the sun returns, weak and watery, but enough to lay out the saved grain. You help spread it over woven mats and burlap sacks, turning it by hand to dry. The smell is still there, faint and bitter. You pray it fades. Later, you and your brother are sent into the woods to forage. You carry a basket each, your boots squelching in the soft undergrowth. The forest is alive with bird call, the air sharp with pine and wet bark. You keep your eyes low, scanning for mushrooms, berries, anything edible. Your brother finds a patch of sorrel leaves shaped like hearts, tasting sharp and green. You fill half your basket. Then, near a fallen log, you spot something else, chanterelles, golden and delicate. You recognize them from the last feast day. Your mother used them in a broth. You kneel carefully, cutting each mushroom with your knife. No tugging, never pull. Pulling tears, the mycelium ruins the patch. You were taught that by old Marta, the village herbalist. She walks hunched with age, smells of dried rosemary, and speaks in riddles. But her knowledge is gold. You return with full baskets, proud, tired, a little itchy from bramble scratches. Your mother praises the mushrooms with a smile that feels like sunshine. She sets a pot on the fire and begins to boil turnips and wild greens, tossing in the mushrooms last. The scent fills the room, earthy and warm. It's the best meal you've had in weeks. After supper, you help your sister sweep the floor. It's a pointless task, really. The dirt floor never stays clean. But rituals matter. Cleanliness is less about results than about rhythm. About reminding yourself that you still control something, even if it's just a broom. Outside the village is quieter than usual. Less chatter, less laughter. The grain rot has put everyone on edge. But here and there, candles glow in windows. Voices murmur prayers. At the church, the priest has left the door open. Inside, he lights incense. It swirls upward, trailing behind him like mist. He walks slowly, chanting Latin verses none of you understand. But the cadence is familiar, almost comforting. You sit near the back, just watching. You don't come here often unless required. But tonight, the place feels different. Less about rules, more about shelter. The priest doesn't notice you, or maybe he does and chooses not to speak. He keeps walking, keeps praying. You close your eyes and let the soft flicker of candlelight soak into your skin. Outside, thunder rumbles far in the distance, low and lazy, like a warning that hasn't decided whether to arrive. That night, the air feels warmer. You lie on your straw bed, full-bellied and dry, and you almost smile. But you don't. Smiling feels too fragile, like a glass dropped too many times, waiting for the final crack. In the dark, your brother whispers to you, asks what happens if all the grain goes bad, if there's no bread this winter. You don't answer. Not because you don't care, but because you don't know, and the truth might be worse than silence. The next morning, you wake early to check the drying grain. Some of it seems better. The smell has faded. The sun is steady overhead. You feel a sliver of hope wedge itself into your chest. Then you hear coughing from inside the house. Not the usual dry bark of cold air, but something deeper. Wet, ragged. Your mother. You pause in the doorway. She's hunched by the hearth hand over her mouth. When she pulls it away, there's red on her fingers. Your heart stumbles. You know what this means. Not the plague, not that black death people whisper about in markets far away, but something common, relentless. Lung fever, ague, consumption. Names change, but the result doesn't. There's no doctor here, only Marta. You run to her breath, catching in your throat. She listens, nods, gathers a pouch of herbs and a pot of honey. She moves slower now, but her hands are still steady. Back home, your siblings huddle by the wall, eyes wide. Your father is pale. He lifts your mother like she weighs nothing and lays her on the straw bed, pulling the blanket over her. Marta begins to boil herbs. Thyme, horehound, a sliver of dried poppy. The scent fills the hut. You sit nearby, knees pulled to your chest, watching the steam rise from the pot. Your mother moans softly, her breath crackling like leaves underfoot. The day passes in silence. No one works the field. No one tends the cow. All that matters is this small room, this bed, this breath. And you realize life as a peasant doesn't just mean enduring hunger or cold or labor. It means sitting helplessly by as the person who raised you fights an invisible enemy with nothing but boiled leaves and hope. And sometimes not even that. The days become measured not in sunrises and sunsets, but in coughs. Your mother's condition drags into a second day. She sweats through her linen shift, trembling beneath the coarse woolen blanket. Her breath comes in gasps, then stills, then returns like a wave pulling in and out. You barely leave her side. Even the youngest children have grown quiet, their usual bickering replaced by long, wary stares toward the bed. Marta comes each morning and each evening. She doesn't smile anymore. Just nods, presses her fingers against your mother's wrist, listens to her chest with her ear pressed to the cloth. She brews more herbs, stronger this time. You catch the bitter scent of wormwood and dried foxglove. Dangerous plants, ones she only uses when the sickness won't retreat on its own. The second night you sleep sitting up back against the wall, head nodding every few minutes. Your mother's hand lies limp in yours, cool but not cold. Her eyes flicker open once in the dark. She looks at you, and in that moment you see her as you've never seen her, small, afraid human. Not the woman who knew how to quiet a crying baby, or skin a rabbit, or patch a torn roof. Just someone trying to breathe. You whisper that she's going to be fine even if you don't believe it. By the third morning, her fever has broken. Her skin is still pale, but the rasp in her chest is weaker. Her fingers twitch when you place the spoon against her lips. She drinks the broth Marta left. It takes a full hour to get it all down. But she drinks it. Your father doesn't cry, not even then. He just exhales long and slow and goes outside to chop wood for the fire that never stopped burning while she lay there. By afternoon, you're back in the field because you have to be. Rain or illness or death, the barley still needs tending. Your hands work while your mind remains behind, still watching your mother's labored breaths. At the edge of your plot, you pause to straighten your back. A cart rattles past on the main road, pulled by 2 oxen. A traveling peddler from the look of it. His cloak is tattered, his hat bent, but his cart is full, pots, ribbons, dried apples, strung on cords, a pile of wax candles in various shapes. He calls out to the villagers as he passes, offering trinkets for sale or trade. You have nothing to give, but you watch anyway. The peddler stops near the church, and a few women approach. You catch bits of conversation news from the next village, rumors of a new tax talk of a nearby town that lost half its people to a fever worse than your mother's. The candles interest you most. Real beeswax, not the smoky tallow you're used to. They burn clean and bright, and the scent reminds you of spring. You walk closer, pretending not to care. The peddler sees you. He lifts one candle, a simple twist of wax, nothing fancy, and says, 2 eggs or 1 iron nail. You have neither, but he sees your face, pauses, then leans in. You give me a story, a good one. True, and I'll give you the candle. You blink. No one trades for stories. Not here. You tell him haltingly about your mother, about Marta, about the night you sat by the fire and counted her breaths. You speak slowly, surprised at your own words. You're not used to being listened to. When you finish, he says nothing for a while. Then he hands you the candle. Not because it was a good story, he says, because it was a real one. You take it home, careful not to drop it, and place it beside your mother's bed. When you light it, the flame flickers blue and gold. The scent is faint but clean. She opens her eyes to look at it and smiles. Just barely. Life resumes its rhythm the next day. You go back to the fields. Your father walks with the other men to dig a drainage ditch at the manor. The youngest children return to foraging along the hedgerows. The village seems quieter. Everyone's a little thinner now. The sickness claimed a child in the hut near the stream, a toddler with red cheeks and thick black hair. No one speaks of it directly, but you notice the cloth tied on the door. The silent sobs of the mother who no longer comes to the well. And then one morning the priest makes an announcement. There will be a feast day soon. The saint's day of someone you've never heard of, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that there will be music and meat, and for one afternoon work will stop. The village reacts like dry grass catching flame. Everyone moves a little quicker, speaks a little louder. Smiles return tentative at first, then brighter. The baker begins kneading extra loaves. The brewer starts preparing the barley for ale. Even your father sets aside time to carve a small wooden spoon for your youngest brother, a tradition for feast days. Your mother sits up now, wrapped in a shawl. She can speak, though not loudly. When she asks you to help her braid her hair, you almost cry. You spend 3 days helping prepare the village square. Children gather flowers. Men raise tents. Someone even strings ribbons between 2 posts. It's the closest you've ever seen your world come to decoration. Then the day arrives. You wear your cleanest tunic, still patched and faded, but at least it doesn't smell of rot. Your sister wears a crown of woven daisies and walks like she's 10 feet tall. Your father shaves with a dull blade and washes his face twice. Your mother is too weak to attend, but she insists you go. The feast is simple by any rich man's standard. 1 roasted pig, several chickens, barley bread stew thickened with root vegetables. But it might as well be a royal banquet to you. The ale is strong. The air smells of garlic and ash and roasting meat. Someone plays a lute, badly. But it doesn't matter. You dance with your sister, then with the widow from the edge of the village who smells like lavender. Your father even smiles once. As dusk falls, the villagers light torches and sit in a wide circle, passing cups of warm ale and telling stories. Real ones, strange ones. A man claims he saw a ghost in the woods. A woman speaks of a dream that came true. Laughter rings out. You sit beside your brother who leans on your shoulder and mumbles that he's too full to move. And for the first time in what feels like months, you let yourself laugh, not just from politeness or relief, but from something deeper. Not joy exactly, but defiance. A declaration that in the face of blight and death and endless work, you can still dance, still sing, still find light, even if the candle runs out. Feast days are like dreams, vivid, fleeting, and impossible to hold on to. The morning after, everything feels slower, heavier, almost hollow. The singing is gone. The smoke has cleared. Your belly, once full, is now oddly sore, stretched by unfamiliar richness. Even your sister, still wearing wilted flower stems in her hair, walks more quietly than usual. You wake early as always, but it takes longer to rise. Your limbs feel reluctant. There's ash in the air, and a few bits of trampled bread left near the fire pit in the square. Crows circle overhead. The feast is already memory. Your father doesn't say much as he ties on his boots. The sky is overcast again, and there's talk of another storm. The clouds hang low, bruised, in thick warning of days ahead. He nods to you, and you follow him back into the field. The soil churned by days of footsteps and last night's rain is slick and sticky. You plant your feet carefully. The barley stalks are taller now, brushing against your knees. Still green but thickening. A good sign. If the weather holds, the harvest will come early this year. But that's a dangerous thought. Hope is always dangerous when it isn't backed by control. You begin weeding again, this time with a sharpened stick carved to a point. It digs faster than your hands and saves your fingers from more damage, but you still feel every root, every tug. Your back aches before the sun is even halfway through its climb. Midday brings a pause. Not because you want one, but because the Reeves boy comes sprinting down the lane out of breath and shouting. The manor wants the boys. Pawn's broken. You blink at your father, unsure what that means, but he's already wiping his hands on his tunic and standing. The fish pond near the manor, one of the Lord's most prized holdings, has been breached by the recent rains. The embankment gave way, and now freshwater fish that would have fed the manor through winter are flopping helplessly in the mud. Your job is to gather them. You race to the site, slipping through hedges and past groves. The scene is chaos. Dozens of peasants swarm the shallow basin, shouting, stumbling, splashing in ankle-deep water as they try to scoop up gasping fish with baskets, caps, even bare hands. The mud is slick and treacherous. People fall. A few laugh. Most curse. You jump in. The water is cold, the silt thick. Your hands fumble for movement beneath the surface. You grip something slimy, wriggling a fat carp. It slips free. You try again. Eventually, you learn the trick, slide your hand under press from the belly scoop. Soon you have 2, 3, 4. You dump them into a sack held open by another boy. The fish slap against each other, silver and blind-eyed, desperate. Hours pass in the sludge. Your tunic is soaked, your skin covered in grit. But you've caught more than most. When the steward finally waves his hand and calls it enough, you climb from the pond, breathing hard. The fish will be divided, though not evenly. The best go to the manor kitchens. The smaller ones, bruised and broken, are tossed to the villagers. You carry one home. Just one. Enough for your family to share a small supper. Your mother fries it over the hearth skin, crisping in goose fat saved from last year. She doesn't speak while it cooks, just stares at the fire as the scent fills the room. The children eat in silence. Even the little ones understand what a rare gift this is. Fresh meat. Fish. A protein source that isn't dried or salted. You chew slowly, letting the flavor linger. It tastes like river and fire and something almost sacred. After dinner, you clean the mud from your tunic in a basin outside. You rub it with lye and ash, scrubbing the fabric against a flat rock. Your hands are red by the time you're done, but the worst of the muck is gone. You hang it to dry on a branch, watching it drip into the grass. The sky is darker now. The storm hasn't broken, but it's waiting. You can feel it in the air, electric heavy. You return indoors just as the first distant rumble echoes across the hills. Your mother gathers the children close as the wind picks up. She pulls the shutter tight, latches it with a sliver of wood. The fire sputters. You toss on another log. Outside, thunder cracks again, closer this time. The storm breaks just after nightfall. Wind lashes the thatch, and water drums against the walls like fists. The door groans. You place a stone against the base to keep it from swinging open. Rain leaks through the thatch in places, but you know the spots now, but your mother has stuffed them with rags. It's not dry, not exactly, but it's better than it was last year. You lie awake as lightning flashes and the storm roars. The sound is deafening, like giants fighting overhead. The youngest child cries, and your mother hums the same lullaby she always sings, low and slow, like the rhythm of rowing. Eventually, the noise begins to lull you. Storms are terrifying, but familiar. You've known them your whole life. They destroy, yes, but they also pass. In the silence after the storm, you sleep. You wake to stillness. The village is soaked. The paths are rivers. Chickens squawk from perches, feathers puffed and indignant. But the hut still stands. The field is muddy but intact. Even the pond still holds a little water. You survived the storm. Again. That morning your mother finds a single fish scale near the hearth, glinting like a pearl. She smiles as she holds it up, then drops it in your palm. "It means we made it," she says, and you believe her. For now. By now the rhythm of your days is so ingrained, it's almost like breathing. Work, eat, sleep, repeat each moment shaped by the land, by weather, by rules you never got to write. But now in the thick of summer, there's another sound that creeps into your life, subtle at first, but growing louder by the day. The sound of sharpening. Sickles are being honed, scythes tested, flails mended. The harvest is coming. You wake earlier than usual. The sun barely touches the horizon. The air is still cool but charged with anticipation. Your father is already at the grindstone. Sparks jump from the blade in his hand. It's your job to turn the wheel slow and steady. The stone hisses with each pass. You focus on the rhythm, hands slick with dew and sweat. He doesn't speak. He rarely does when the harvest nears. Everyone becomes quieter, more focused, more anxious. Because this is it. This is the moment the entire year pivots on. If the yield is poor, if the rain returns too soon, if the crop is diseased, the winter will be harder than any before. After breakfast, porridge again, this time with a few crushed berries, you and your siblings are sent to the fields. Not to harvest yet, but to clear the edges, check the fences and chase away the deer that have been sneaking into the barley at night. You carry a stick and rattle a piece of tin tied to a string. The noise scares the animals off. Most of the time. You find a young buck this morning, half submerged in the barley, its ears twitching. When it sees you, it bolts, crashing through the stalks and disappearing into the woods. You follow only a few steps, then stop. Poaching is forbidden. But if it had been a little closer, a little slower, you return to the field and spend the rest of the day walking rows, inspecting stalks. Some are bent from the storm. Others stand tall, gold-tipped and swaying. You pick one, rub it between your palms, and blow away the chaff. The kernel is full. You crush it with your teeth. Soft enough. Soon. The next morning, the bell at the church rings twice, an unusual signal. You pause at the sound. Everyone does. It means the manor has declared it. Harvest begins today. You rush home to gather your things, a small sickle wrapped in cloth, a bundle of twine, a sack for collecting ears of grain. Your father is already tightening his belt. Your mother packs a bit of bread and cheese into a cloth and hands it to you. "Don't waste a moment," she says. "You won't." At the field, the scene is both beautiful and frantic. Dozens of peasants line the edges, tools in hand. No one waits for instruction. You begin with your family's strip, bending low, slicing carefully. The sickle cuts through the stalks with a whisper, and you bundle them quickly, tying them into sheaves with practiced hands. Hours pass. You cut, gather, tie. Over and over. Your back screams by midday. Your hands cramp. You pause only to sip water and chew a bite of bread, then resume. The sun climbs, then begins to fall. Your arms move without thought. Your legs shake with fatigue. But the barley falls, bundle after bundle, row after row. That evening, the sheaves are stacked in Stook's teepee-like arrangements to dry them out. You stand wiping your forehead and count how many your family finished. Fewer than you hoped. But the barley is good. Plump, golden dry. That's what matters. Dinner is sparse that night, what little bread you didn't eat during the day. But you're too tired to care. You collapse on your mat, body burning eyes already closed before your head even touches the straw. You wake sore. Every muscle complains. But there's no choice. You return to the field and the days blur. Cut bundles stack. Over and over. The village works as one, now each family tending their plot, watching the skies, measuring each hour by how many Stooks rise from the earth. The reeve moves from strip to strip, inspecting. He carries a tally stick notched with each family's share. He doesn't smile. Just records. One day your sister cuts her hand deep and jagged. The sickle slipped. Your mother wraps it in linen and herbs, but the blood soaks through. She can't work for 2 days. That means more hours for you. You don't complain. Another day, a thunderhead looms in the west. Everyone sees it. No one stops. You work faster blades, flashing feet slipping. Rain would ruin the harvest mold. The grain flatten the stalks, rot the Stooks. The storm skirts the village. Just wind and a spattering of drops. You breathe easier. By the end of the week, the field looks transformed. The green-gold sea has become an empty stretch of dirt, save for the tall pyramids of bundled grain. You sit on one, panting, your sickle still in your lap. You made it. But it's not over. The threshing comes next. The Lord provides a barn large and shadowed with a wide dirt floor. Here the grain is beaten, loosened from the stalks by flails, and then winnowed to separate the chaff. You've never liked this part. It's noisy, chaotic, and dusty. You take your turn with the flail, 2 sticks joined by leather swung overhead and down onto the barley. It's harder than it looks. The grain sprays out, stinging your arms. The dust clogs your nose. You cough, eyes watering, and keep swinging. The older boys laugh at you. One shows you how to change your grip, more control, less bounce. You adjust, try again. Better. After threshing comes winnowing. You carry the loosened grain outside and toss it in shallow baskets into the breeze. The lighter chaff blows away. The heavier grain falls back. You work until your arms tremble, eyes tracking every gust of wind, adjusting your angle with each toss. By the end of the day, you're covered in sweat and chaff, but the sacks are filling. Grain, real grain, yours, or rather the Lord's mostly. He'll take a share more than seems fair and leave you the rest. It's not enough, but it's something. At home, your mother counts the sacks. Her fingers move like an abacus. She nods, says, "It'll do," and those 2 words lift a weight from your chest. That night, as the village sleeps, you lie on your mat and listen. No coughing, no thunder. Just the deep, rhythmic breathing of people who worked themselves raw and still woke up grateful. The harvest has come, and so far it hasn't taken anyone with it. Not yet. Harvest means food, but food doesn't mean comfort. Not here, not yet. You wake after only a few hours of sleep, your body still sore from yesterday's threshing. Your hands are red and swollen from gripping the flail blisters split and raw. But the work isn't over. With the barley collected and stored, now begins the grinding. Without it, the grain is nothing but useless weight. You set out before sunrise to queue at the mill. You and your brother each carry a sack of grain tied at the mouth with twisted cloth. The walk isn't far, but every step feels longer with the sack pressing into your back. The air is cool, sharp, and filled with mist rising from the stream that turns the mill wheel. When you arrive, you're already third in line. Others have come even earlier. The miller stands at the door, arms crossed, sleepy-eyed. He doesn't hurry. He doesn't have to. This mill is the only one allowed, and he knows it. When it's finally your turn, he weighs your grain on a scale made from string wood and iron. Then he takes his share. It's called the multure, a portion of the flour owed to him, and by extension, the Lord. It's not optional. You say nothing, just watch as he scoops out a full measure and sets it aside. The grinding begins. The huge stone wheels turn with a groan, grain slipping into the center. Dust fills the air, clinging to your hair, your teeth, your eyelashes. You step outside to breathe, watching the wheel creak and splash beside the stream. When the flour is done, it's warm to the touch, soft and slightly coarse. You carry it home like a newborn. Your mother smiles faintly when she sees it. The smell of fresh flour fills the hut, like sunlight on a winter morning. You know better than to hope for pastries or cakes. There's no sugar, no butter, no eggs to spare. But the bread will rise better this week, and that's enough. She sets to work at once, kneading the dough with strong hands, folding it, working it into the wooden trough. A bit of sour from the last batch gives it tang. A handful of herbs from the garden adds flavor. You help by tending the fire, feeding it dry twigs until the oven stones glow red. The loaves bake slowly. You watch the tops darken, the crusts form. When she finally cracks one open, steam spills into the air. It smells like heaven. You tear off a chunk, careful not to burn your fingers. The crust is crisp, the inside soft. You chew slowly, eyes closed. For a moment, you're not in a hut. You're not poor. You're not tired. You're simply a human being eating warm bread. And that is something. But even as you eat, the next concern begins to loom. Taxes. You don't have coins. No one does. But that doesn't matter. Taxes are paid in kind grain livestock labor. The tally stick keeps track. Each notch is a debt, and the steward will come to collect. Sure enough, 2 days later, a rider approaches from the manor. His cloak flutters behind him, and his boots shine like mirrors. The villagers gather hushed. The steward dismounts, reads aloud from a parchment, and announces the Lord's demands 3 sacks of grain per family due by week's end. Refusal is not an option. Failure means punishment, usually more labor, sometimes worse. Your father says nothing, just nods and turns back toward the hut. You spend that night helping him fill the sacks. It hurts giving it away. You know how much work went into every kernel. You think of the blisters, the aching back, the sleepless nights. But that doesn't matter. It's not yours. It never was. The next day, you carry the grain to the manor. The road is steep, winding up to the gray stone walls that seem to mock your every step. Inside the gate, you walk through the yard, past chickens scratching the earth, past armored guards who don't even look at you. You reach the storehouse and add your sacks to the growing pile. No one thanks you. No one counts. They just wave you away. On the way back, you pass the orchard apple trees heavy with fruit. You're not allowed to pick them. They belong to the manor. But a windfall lies just beyond the path, 2 small apples, bruised but edible. You glance around, then snatch them up and slip them beneath your tunic. You and your brother eat them in the woods, juice sticky on your fingers. You don't speak. You just savor the stolen sweetness. Back home, your mother is drying herbs near the hearth, lavender, sage, thyme. The scent is strong, calming. She hangs them in bunches from the rafters where mice can't reach. Later, she'll crush them into powders or store them in linen pouches to treat wounds, soothe coughs, flavor stews. She hands you a bunch and tells you to hang it over the doorway. Keeps the bad spirits out, she says, half smiling. You do it not because you believe in spirits, but because she asked. That evening you help your father mend the fence near the field. A section was damaged in the storm, and animals have started slipping through. You drive new stakes into the ground, tie fresh twine. As the sun sets behind the hills, your shadow stretches long across the field. For a moment, you imagine it's someone else's, someone older, taller, stronger, someone who has control. But the sun disappears, and the illusion fades. Back in the hut, you eat barley stew and a hunk of cold bread. The flour's almost gone. You'll need more soon. Your mother hums as she sews a patch into your sister's tunic. Your brother is asleep already, mouth open, a bit of drool trailing onto the straw. The fire burns low. You lie on your mat staring at the roof. The stars are hidden tonight. Clouds blanket the sky. You wonder how many more sacks the steward will demand before winter. How much more you'll have to give before you've given everything. And still you close your eyes. Because tomorrow you'll get up again and do it all over. The cool bite in the air means autumn is creeping in. The mornings feel sharper, and your breath hangs like smoke. The light has changed to softer slanted golden, but sad. Even the animals act differently. The birds sing less. The pigs grunt more restlessly. And the wind whistles through the eaves of the hut like a warning. You wake one morning to find the first frost lining the edges of the thatch. Not snow, just a whisper of winter to come. But that whisper is loud enough. Everyone knows what's next. Preserving. Winter doesn't allow for mistakes. You must trap, heat-store food, dry herbs, prepare for months of cold and hunger. If you're lucky, you've grown enough. If you're not, you'll beg. You begin by gathering the last of the vegetables. Root crops, mostly turnips, onions, carrots. You and your sister spend hours pulling them from the soil, brushing off dirt, inspecting for rot. The good ones go into the cellar. The soft ones are used immediately or thrown to the pigs. Your mother starts to dry apples over the fire. Thin slices strung on twine curling at the edges, turning from white to gold. The scent fills the house, sweet, smoky. It almost smells festive. But it's not about taste. It's about calories. She also starts to render fat. A bucket of pork scraps bubbles in the cauldron. It smells awful, greasy, and metallic. But the lard will keep. It will coat bread, seal jars, light lamps, soothe cracked hands. It's more precious than gold. Your job is to turn the drying racks every few hours. You monitor the heat from the fire, make sure the fat doesn't burn, make sure the apples don't crisp too quickly. It's slow work, tedious. But everything is fragile now. A single mistake can mean a winter of regret. One afternoon, your brother runs in, breathless cheeks red from cold. The Reeves goose got out. You don't care. But he insists on following it through the village with a stick. And you follow too, partly to keep him out of trouble, partly because you haven't laughed in days. The chase leads through muddy lanes past huts and haystacks. The goose is stubborn, fast, and mean. It hisses, flaps, and finally flies into a low tree. You throw a rock, not to kill, just to scare and miss. It honks loudly, then dives toward your brother, who shrieks and falls backward into a puddle. You laugh, loudly, uncontrollably. It feels foreign, this laughter, sharp and ridiculous. Your stomach aches from it. Even your brother starts laughing despite his soaked tunic. The goose waddles away victorious. That evening, your mother scolds you both, but even she can't keep a straight face. She cuts a bruised apple into slices, sprinkles a bit of dried mint on top, and passes it to you on a scrap of wood. a feast in its own way. But that moment doesn't last. The very next day, the pigs are slaughtered. You hate this part. Everyone does. But it's necessary. At first light, the men lead the pigs to the edge of the village. You hear them squeal high and panicked, one by one. Then silence. The air fills with the smell of blood and steam. You're sent to help with the butchering. Your hands tremble at first. The carcasses are massive, steaming pink and white and red all at once. You hold the limbs while your father cuts. You help skin gut separate the fat. You gag more than once. No one mocks you. Everyone remembers their first time. The meat is divided, some for fresh eating, most for curing. Your mother salts thick slabs and hangs them above the fire. Others are stuffed into sausage casings made from cleaned intestines. Nothing is wasted. Even the bones are boiled to make stock. The blood is saved for pudding. You stir it with oats and spices, trying not to look too closely. By the time you're done, you smell like death. But you've earned your winter. The food will last if the rats don't find it. That night you help hang the sausages near the rafters. You count them without thinking, 23. Maybe enough. Then comes the firewood. You spend days in those woods chopping fallen limbs, dragging branches, bundling twigs. You carry so many that your shoulders ache, your palms split open again. You stack the wood behind the hut in a crisscross pattern, letting air flow through it to keep it dry. Your father inspects the pile and nods. Not enough, he says, but good for now. Each day the sun sets earlier. The shadows stretch longer. You find yourself rushing more, breathing faster, as if racing the dark. Because once winter comes, all bets are off. You've seen what it does. 2 years ago, the winter lasted almost 6 months. The snow came early and stayed late. The stores ran dry. You watched your neighbor's eyes sink into her face as she wasted away. You watched the Reeves boy steal bread and get beaten for it. You saw things you've never spoken of. You don't want that again. So you work. So you hope. One evening you find your mother staring into the fire, her face unreadable. What if it's another long one, you ask? She doesn't answer for a while, just stares at the flames. Then we take each day, she says finally. And if we make it through, we thank God. You nod. It's the only answer that fits. That night, the frost is heavier. You sleep under 2 blankets curled tight. Your brother presses close beside you. The candle flickers on the windowsill. The sausages sway slightly in the rafter above. Outside, the first snow begins to fall quiet, slow, like a promise whispered through the sky. And you know the season has turned. Now you wait. The snow doesn't arrive in a flurry. It tiptoes in flake by flake until the world is no longer brown and green, but white and still. You wake to silence, a muffled kind, that fills every space and swallows every sound. The air has changed too. It bites now. Not just in the mornings, but all day long. You breathe, and it hurts. You huddle near the hearth as your father stirs the fire back to life. The room is dim, lit only by the soft orange glow of embers. The chimney smokes slightly. You cough. Your sister pulls the blanket tighter around your shared bed. You all sleep closer now, packed together like logs stacked for winter. The body heat is as necessary as the fire. Your mother ladles out broth from a clay pot that sat near the coals all night. It's thin onions, carrots, some dried greens, and a shaving of salted pork. But it's warm and it goes down smoothly. You soak bread into it to thicken your portion. Everyone does. The floor is too cold for bare feet, so you keep your boots on indoors. They're stiff and smell of old leather and wood smoke. You help your mother pour ash over the latrine pot, then carry it out, careful not to slip on the icy steps. Steam rises from it as you dump it behind the byre. Outside, the village is subdued. Even the animals are quieter. The pigs grunt softly in their pen, now covered with straw and cloth to trap heat. The cow's breath puffs from her nose like fog. You brush her, talk to her. The warmth of her side is one of the few comforts left. You check the firewood. The pile is shrinking faster than you expected. It always does. No matter how much you cut, how carefully you ration it, the cold eats it quicker than your arms can swing an axe. You carry in more logs, stack them near the hearth. Your father splits kindling with his belt knife, and your brother gathers pine cones to help ignite the larger logs. Every bit of fuel is valuable. Then the waiting begins. Winter is waiting. You wait between meals, between freezes, between storms. You wait for something to change. And while you wait, you work just enough to stay ahead of the cold. You mend clothes, patch holes in the wall, scrape the soot from the cooking pot. You stretch what's left of the root vegetables. You mix stale grain with crushed acorns and cook them slowly so they don't make anyone sick. One day the snow comes heavier. Thick flakes swirl outside like ash from the sky. You sit by the fire, your hands wrapped in rags. Your mother tells stories, soft, slow tales about saints and wolves and hungry kings who forgot how to be human. You listen. Everyone does. You don't have parchment or ink or books, but you remember the words. You memorize them, pass them on, whisper them later in the dark. Because stories are warmth, too. On the third week of snow, the cow gives less milk. Your father says nothing, just pats her gently and adds more straw to her pen. Your mother waters down the morning bowl of milk so it stretches farther. No one complains. The next day, your brother falls sick. It starts with a shiver, then a cough, then a flush in his cheeks that doesn't fade. He lies under the blanket, eyes bright and glassy. Your mother makes teas, mint, yarrow, elderflower, but they don't help much. She adds a pinch of poppy to his broth and prays. You sit beside him, counting his breaths. At night, the wind howls. It pushes at the shutters, creeps through the cracks in the wall. You wake to your brother crying out, delirious. He asks for snow, for honey, for a toy he lost years ago. Your father doesn't sleep. He sits by the fire, stoking it, watching. Always watching. On the fourth night, the fever breaks. Your brother sleeps quietly, deeply. You touch his forehead. It's damp but cooler. Your mother weeps quietly, face in her hands. She hasn't cried in years, but now she does. The next day, she kisses your brother's brow before boiling the last of the salted meat. It's a celebration, even if no one says so. You eat slowly, thankfully. Outside, the snow begins to melt just a little. A patch of earth appears near the edge of the road. It's brown and ugly, but beautiful too. Proof that the world still exists beneath all this white. But winter isn't done. The next week brings wind like knives. Your nose bleeds from the dryness. Your hands crack open. The water in the bucket freezes overnight, and your breath hangs in the hut like smoke. You ration more tightly. Bread twice a day, broth once. You chew slowly, drink slower. Every calorie is counted in silence. When the church bell rings, you all listen. It rings once. That means a death. Later you learn it was Marta, the old herbalist. You feel the loss like a stone in your gut. She was the one who knew the names of plants, who healed with poultices and prayers, who whispered charms over newborns and sick sheep. The village holds a small burial wrapped in wool and frost. The priest speaks words over the mound. The wind howls louder than his voice. Afterward, you pick through the hedges behind her hut. The snow is thinner there. You find a tin box hidden beneath a stone dried leaves labeled with faint scratches. Yarrow, hyssop, comfrey. You show your mother. She presses the box to her chest like a relic. Life continues, because it must. You start marking days on the beam above your bed, notching lines with your knife. One for each morning you wake up. One for each evening you fall asleep. It becomes a game, a ritual, a record. 57 marks so far. 57 days since the first snow. You wonder how many more there will be. And then one morning you wake and realize you can hear the birds again. At first you think it's a dream, the sound. A single hesitant chirp far off like a question whispered into a church. You sit up slowly, eyes still crusted with sleep, and listen. Another chirp answers. Then another. And suddenly a chorus, quiet, uncertain, but unmistakable. Bird song. You throw off the blanket and rush to the window. The shutters are warped from winter damp, but you nudge them open just enough to peer outside. The snow is still there, clinging in patches, but it's thinner now. Dirty, cracked, shrinking at the edges. And there, in the branches of the bare tree near the well, a pair of sparrows. The first signs of spring. You barely notice the cold as you pull on your boots. Your father is already outside, staring at the same sky. He doesn't say anything. He just squints into the pale light and breathes deep. Then slowly he nods once. You know what it means. It's time. The whole village begins to stir. Word spreads. The frost has lifted. Not fully, not safely, but just enough to begin the long, slow crawl out of winter's grip. Your mother opens every shutter. Sunlight floods the hut, chasing the shadows back into the corners. The fire still burns, but for the first time in months, it's not the only warmth. She moves through the house like someone newly awakened, folding blankets, airing out tunics, sweeping away the ash that's collected in every crevice. You help. Everyone helps. Spring doesn't arrive like a burst. It trickles in meltwater, dripping from the thatch sap, rising in the trees, mud thickening beneath your feet. But even that mud is a promise. Where there's mud, there will be soil. Where there's soil, there will be planting. That's the next task, the hardest one. You walk the field with your father, both of you sinking ankle-deep in thawed earth. The rows are still marked from last season. The ground is wet and clumpy, but softening. He bends, takes a handful of dirt, crumbles it in his fist, sniffs it. You watch his face. When he nods again, your chest tightens with something that almost feels like joy. Almost. Plowing comes next. You don't own a plow. Most peasants don't. It belongs to the village, shared and repaired each season. You wait your turn in a long queue of families, each guarding their borrowed oxen, each watching the sky with wary eyes. When your turn comes, you and your father move quickly. The ox is old but strong. The plow creaks but holds. You press your shoulder to the yoke as your father guides the handles and the blade cuts into the earth like a knife through bread. The smell of wet soil rises. It's rich and pungent and alive. You work from sunup to sundown, pausing only to drink from the stream and chew on bits of dried bread. Your hands blister again. Your shoulders burn. But the furrows rise behind you, row after row. The land is returning. That night you fall asleep with your clothes still on. The aches are old friends now. The next day is sowing. The seeds were stored all winter in a sealed jar, hidden from rats and moisture. Barley, rye, oats. You carry the bag slung over your shoulder, your hand dipped inside. With each step, you scatter seed across the furrows, letting them fall like rain. You don't know which will take and which will die. You just keep walking, sowing, trusting. Your sister follows barefoot, using a rake to gently pat soil over the seeds. It's slow work, but meditative. You talk a little about nothing in particular. How the birds are louder now. How the ice in the stream broke apart yesterday. How the cow seems fatter than she should be. You pause. Could she be? Your sister shrugs wide-eyed. A calf would be a miracle. More milk. More warmth. Maybe even a trade. You keep sowing. By week's end, the fields are ready. The rain has returned, not the cold, slashing kind, but soft and rhythmic. It taps on the roof like a lullaby. You watch it from inside, feeling something deep in your chest unfurl like a leaf. You spend your days repairing tools, mending fences, building a new gate for the pig pen with your father. He lets you carve the latch this time. Your hands are steadier now, stronger. You also visit the graveyard. Not for a funeral this time, just to walk. The ground is soft underfoot. The wooden crosses lean in odd directions, weathered and moss-covered. You find Marta's grave. Someone has placed dried lavender at its base. You suspect it was your mother. You kneel beside it and whisper thanks. No one taught you how to pray, but somehow you still know how. When the weather holds, the villagers meet in the square. Not for mourning, not even for church. Just to talk, to share news, to see who's made it. Some faces are missing. That hurts. But others remain. The peddler returns one day, this time with cloth fishhooks and a new dog trailing behind him. You trade a pot of lard for a bone needle and a spool of twine. He tells stories of a nearby town building a stone bridge of a bishop who rode through in silk shoes of a war starting far to the south. You barely listen. The dog catches your eye. Mangy but friendly. You toss it a scrap of bread. It licks your hand. Your father watches from a distance. He doesn't stop you. Later, you find the dog curled beside your door, fast asleep. That night, the candle burns low. Your mother sews by its light, humming again. Your brother tries to copy your seed-sowing motions with a stick in the dirt floor. Your sister braids flowers into her hair. You lie back, arms behind your head, listening. The wind outside sounds different now. Less like a threat, more like a song. You realize you survived. Not alone. Never alone. But still, you survived. The days grow longer, almost without you noticing. Morning light arrives earlier, slipping through the shutters before you're ready to open your eyes. The birds start their chorus before your body's rested. And by the time you stumble out of bed, half-dressed and yawning, the sun is already warming the roof. The season has fully turned. Spring is no longer a whisper, it's a shout. You see it in everything, the grass that grows so fast it cracks the stone path near the church. The trees that once stood bare now exploding with green, and the bees, so many bees buzzing between blossoms, drunk on nectar. You wake hungry now, not out of desperation, but expectation. There is food again. Greens have sprouted in the wild nettles, sorrel wild garlic. Your mother boils them into soups so pungent they sting your nose and make your eyes water, but they taste alive. After a winter of salt and ash and hunger, alive is a flavor you never knew you missed. Your father sets to building a cold frame, a sort of crude wooden box with a glass top scavenged from a broken lantern. He fills it with sprouting onions, a few hopeful beans. The idea is simple: trap the warmth, encourage life. He teaches you how to turn the soil before planting, how to check for pests, how to smell rot before it spreads. You learn quickly. You have to. One afternoon, while helping mend a section of fencing, you spot the cow standing awkwardly near the edge of the pasture. Her back is arched and her breathing shallow. Your father sees it too. He drops his tools and runs. It's happening. She's calving. There's no midwife for animals, just experience. You help when asked, passing rags, fetching water, gripping her rope when she shifts or moans. It's terrifying, loud, messy. You can't tell what's happening, what's normal. The cow thrashes. You flinch. You've never seen your father sweat like this in cool weather. Then suddenly it's over. A wet, blinking calf lies in the straw, legs wobbling, mouth wide, trying to breathe. You stare in awe. So does your sister, who'd crept over without you noticing. She claps her hands once, then covers her mouth, eyes wide with wonder. The calf survives. So does the cow. You name it something silly, peat or mud pie you can't remember. But it sticks. That night your family eats wild leek soup with crushed barley dumplings, and your mother smiles through cracked lips. A new calf means a good year, she says. You believe her. Soon after, the manor calls for spring labor. This time it's rebuilding a section of road leading to the orchard. You join a group of boys wielding shovels and baskets, spreading gravel, tamping dirt. It's hard work, nothing new, but easier than winter, easier than harvest. And you're stronger now. You feel it in your arms, in the way your boots grip the soil, in how your hands don't blister as fast. At midday, the steward pauses the work and passes around mugs of weak ale. You sit in the grass legs, stretched out, watching a lark wheel overhead. "Look at you," says one of the older boys. "Last year you couldn't lift a hoe straight." You shrug. "That was last year." He smirks and tosses you a bit of cheese. You're growing into it. You chew in silence, heart a little warmer than before. On Sundays, church continues as it always has. But now the benches outside fill up faster than the pews inside. People want to be in the light. The priest doesn't mind. He preaches with his arms wide, voice echoing through the open door. His sermons are always the same: mercy, penance, obedience, but they sound different in spring, like promises instead of punishments. One week he blesses the fields, walks the boundaries in his vestments, flicking holy water at the furrows. Your father follows behind, head bowed. You trail after with your siblings, trying to mimic the solemn steps, but laughing quietly when the priest's cassock snags on a bush. Afterward, there's bread and ale shared in the square. Not a feast, not yet, but a gathering. The peddler shows up again, this time with ribbons and combs. You buy a bit of blue thread for your sister with a pinch of dried thyme. She braids it into her hair and twirls until she's dizzy. Even the dog, still nameless, still filthy, seems happier. Your mother teaches you how to patch holes in tunics now. She places the needle in your hand and guides your fingers. "You won't always have me to do it," she says. You frown. "But you're still here." She doesn't respond, just keeps stitching. By late spring, the first true crops sprout in the garden beds. Peas, a few strawberries. You pick the first one, soft and red and warm from the sun. Your siblings stare as you bite it in half, then share the rest around. It's tiny. It's perfect. Work continues always. But it's lighter now. You have energy. The cold no longer wraps around your bones. You run more. You laugh more. You dare to dream in ways you didn't during winter. One evening your father takes you to the edge of the fields and points toward a patch of unused land. "That'll be yours," he says. "Someday." You blink. He doesn't explain, just pats your shoulder and walks back toward home. And just like that, something shifts inside you. You thought survival was the goal. Now you see something more. A future. The summer doesn't arrive with a roar, it seeps in gently, like a warm breath through the open shutters. One morning you wake and the air is different. No chill, no dampness, just the soft weight of warmth that clings to your skin and makes the clay walls feel dry for the first time in months. You rise early now, not because you must, but because the sunrise is so beautiful it pulls you out of sleep. The sky glows pale orange over the hills and the fields shimmer with dew. The birds are already singing, and you swear the lark has returned to the same branch near the church spire every day this week. He sings just for you, or so you like to think. Life speeds up again, but not with the urgency of harvest or the panic of winter. Summer brings a steady rhythm. Work, yes, but also moments to breathe. You spend mornings in the field, pulling weeds that threaten the barley shoots. Your hands move quickly, muscle memory guiding each motion. Your sister joins you, and together you sing old songs under your breath, half-remembered verses your mother once hummed as she stirred the cooking pot. The sun rises high, and you rest beneath a tree near the edge of the woods. You drink from a goatskin pouch, the water warm but welcome. Then you lie back and stare at the sky. Clouds drift slowly like ships on a sea you'll never sail. You wonder sometimes what lies beyond the forest, beyond the manor, beyond the hills. You might never know, but the wondering is enough. Afternoons are for mending fences, collecting berries, checking on the garden. Your brother runs barefoot now, chasing chickens and laughing, as the dog, the same ragged stray from spring, barks after him. The dog has taken to sleeping near your feet at night, tail-curled eyes half-lidded, always watching. Your mother dries herbs again. They hang from every rafter, the air filled with their scent mint, thyme, rosemary. She also teaches your sister how to make balm from tallow and chamomile. You watch from the doorway as they stir the mixture over the fire, your sister's hair damp with sweat, your mother's voice soft with patience. Your father has started repairing the old shed behind the hut. He says it might be time to build a new one, maybe with proper stone walls, maybe if the barley yields are good even with a shuttered window. It's the first time he's spoken of building in years. The village, too, seems lighter. Children play near the stream, floating twigs like boats. The reeve's voice is less sharp. Even the priest who once scowled through every sermon now smiles after Mass and blesses the pigs without muttering about sin. You see new babies in swaddles, new tools in hands, new timber stacked near houses. People are planning again. One evening the blacksmith's son hosts a game in the square, something to do with stones and hoops and dizzy spinning. You join reluctantly, but laugh so hard you forget the score. Your sister wins somehow, and the prize is a woven bracelet of rushes. She gives it to you. The peddler visits once more this time, with colored glass beads and 2 bolts of cloth, one rough one surprisingly fine. He says a nobleman passed through a week earlier and paid him to spread news of an upcoming festival in the nearby town. You don't know if you'll ever attend a festival, but just hearing the word feels like sunshine in your chest. Some evenings you sneak away to the edge of the woods with a handful of leftover bread. You sit by the old oak, toss crumbs into the grass and watch the birds gather. Sometimes a rabbit appears, twitching its nose. Once you saw a fox. Neither of you moved. It's peaceful there, quiet. You think about the winter, about your brother's fever, about Marta's grave, about the days when you weren't sure your mother would ever sit up again, and you think of now. She hums again. She laughs when the dog knocks over the water bucket. She sings lullabies to your youngest sister, even when the girl's already asleep. And you feel stronger. Your legs carry you farther. Your arms lift more. Your back still aches, but less than before. You no longer flinch at the sight of blood or blisters. You know when to plant, when to reap, when to listen. One night as fireflies blink in the tall grass, and the moon casts silver over the thatched roofs, you lie awake beside the fire and feel the smallest sense of pride. You haven't escaped poverty. You haven't risen above your station. You haven't changed the world. But you've endured it. Every frost, every hunger pang, every rule you never got to write. You've stood against them all, and you're still here. Alive. Rooted like the barley in your field. Bending, but never breaking. Summer may not last. The harvest may yet fail. The steward may come with new demands. But tonight, the fire is warm. The air is soft, and your belly is full. The barley ripens fast beneath the summer sun. Its heads swell and bow low on their stalks, golden and whispering with every breeze. You walk the rows barefoot in the early light, letting your fingers trail across the tops, like a priest blessing the earth. Each stalk, each grain, is the result of everything you've survived. The harvest is still weeks away, but the village is already preparing. Sickles are inspected. Twine is twisted. Baskets are patched. You watch your father test a new grindstone, its surface wet and gleaming. He squints against the sun, nods once, and moves on. There's never much talking during this time, only gestures, plans, and glances that carry all the meaning in the world. You and your brother are tasked with collecting water from the stream, not just for the family, but for the animals and garden as well. The bucket digs into your shoulder, but the walk is peaceful. Dragonflies dart over the reeds. You see minnows in the shallows. The dog splashes ahead, tongue out, thrilled, just to exist. Back at the hut, your mother has begun setting aside jars, cleaned and dried their wax seals, tested. She mixes dried berries with honey, spoons them into pots, covers them with cloth. It's her quiet ritual before every harvest sweetness preserved in case the winter to come is bitter again. She hands you a spoonful. It's sticky and bright, and for a moment you're a child again, forgetting everything about blisters and grain tax and death. You thank her. She doesn't say anything, just wipes your cheek and goes back to her jars. The cow has grown heavy with milk. The calf, now all legs and mischief, knocks over a stool and runs laughing through the yard if a calf can laugh. You chase it once, then again, until your father tells you to quit wasting daylight. You don't mind. There's joy in the wasting. Evenings now stretch like ribbons. After supper, usually barley porridge with wild herbs, you sit outside the hut, the whole family lined up like fence posts. You don't speak. You just watch the sky. The sun dips slowly behind the fields, spilling color across the clouds. Pinks, golds, purples, a show richer than anything the manor could ever afford. Your sister braids grass into loops. Your mother drowses in her chair. Your brother sketches in the dirt with a stick, his tongue caught in concentration. The dog rests its head on your knee. You scratch behind its ear and it sighs. Then the stars come out. You've always loved this part. The whole sky scattered with fire, each point a reminder of how vast everything is. You name them as you always do, not by their real names, but by your own. That one Marta's herb, that one father's sickle. That one dim but steady you call hope. You've learned their patterns now, the way they shift with the seasons. You watch them like a farmer watches the clouds. When the moon is full, the priest organizes a night procession, a blessing for the upcoming harvest. The villagers gather near the church with torches and candles. The old hymns are sung, Latin syllables echoing off stone and thatch. You carry a candle too, its wax dripping onto your wrist. You walk beside your sister, her eyes wide, reflecting the flame. When the priest raises his hand and speaks of bounty, you don't look at him. You look at the sky. You make your own prayer, one not in words, but in the rhythm of your breathing and the beat of your heart. You pray not for riches, you pray for enough. Later that night you dream of grain falling like rain, a sky thick with golden seed. You wake with a start, and for a moment believe it's real. Then you hear the wind, the shifting of your family in sleep, the quiet snore of the dog. Reality, but somehow still gentle. In the final days before harvest, the village takes on a strange calm, like a held breath. You sense the pressure returning, the need to be fast, to be thorough, to not waste a single kernel. But you also sense a new kind of confidence. You've done this before. You'll do it again. Your father surprises you by asking your opinion on the field, on the weather, on whether the western strip should be cut first. You give your answer. He listens. You don't know if he agrees, but he listens. That night, he places his old sickle in your hand. It's not ceremonial. It's not poetic. It's just practical. But to you, it's everything. It means you're part of this now, not a child following behind, but someone whose hands matter. Someone whose sweat shapes the future. You sharpen it by moonlight, slow and careful. Your mother watches you for a moment before turning in. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. Tomorrow the work will begin again, harder than ever. But tonight is still yours. You lie down on the straw mat, pull the blanket up to your chin, and stare at the ceiling. The rafters creak. The dog turns in its sleep. A mouse scampers overhead. And you smile. Because the harvest comes in the morning. And this time you are ready. You've walked through every season now, woken on straw beds, trudged through mud, and bent your back beneath sun and snow. You've endured sickness and silence, loss and laughter. You've mended fences and warmed broth, watched calves be born and candles flicker out. You've lived the life of a medieval peasant, not the storybook kind, not the backdrop to a knight's tale, but the real one, the one carved into earth and flesh and breath, where joy is simple, where survival is noble, and where hope is passed hand to hand like a crust of bread around the fire. And yet, even in all that hardship, there was rhythm, a strange beauty, the kind that can only be seen when the world slows down. When your hands are busy and your heart is quiet. When the fields whisper your name because you've given them everything. So if your eyes are heavy now and your mind begins to drift, know that you've earned your rest, just like the peasant whose story we followed. And as you close your eyes, maybe imagine the fire still glowing beside you, the gentle sound of rain on thatched roof, the steady breath of the people you love all around you. Let the past carry you now. Let sleep come.